자, 이번에 할 게임은 에디스 핀치라는 게임이고요. 가격은 11,000원입니다. 스토리는 가족사를 연구하며 이야기를 찾고 왜 가족 중에서 그녀만 살아남았는지 알아내야 합니다. 라고 합니다. 그럼 바로 한번 시작해 보도록 할게요. Let's go!
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house.
일기부터 시작해서 이제 바로 나왔네요.
I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
살아있지만 살아있는 동안에 여러 방들을 들어가지 못했다.
Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately.
무슨 일 있었나?
I hadn't
긴급
been back since my
우편들이
brother
뭐
Lewis's
배우지?
funeral.
내 식구에 돌아오지 않았다? 가족사가 문제가 있었나? 사이가 안 좋았나?
In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
여기서 어디로 가야 될까요? 나무에 나무 표지판이 적혀 있는데 오른쪽이겠죠? 달리는 거 안 되는 시프트 누르니까 줌이 된다. 와, 근데 진짜
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
이 길로 운전을 안 했다? 운전할 수 있나? 동물 발자국밖에 없을만 하네. 안녕놀이야? 참 빠르다.
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
네, 도착했네요. 여기가
The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
그래. 집에 들어가면
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words.
집이 불편하면은 좀 힘들 텐데.
Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
집이 필요한 것이다.
I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't.
열리지 않았대.
Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me.
다른 데로 찾아서 들어가야 돼. 주인공. 오케이. 어딜까요? 여긴 차고지 같은데. 개구멍으로 일단
Crawling through
들어갔고
the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
어렸을 때니까
The power had been turned off the night we left.
전화를 꺼졌다. 자전거도 많이 타고 다녔나 봐.
For the first time in years, I felt like I was home. But instead of a family, there were just memories of one.
에디, 마윈, 레위스.
Like how only one restaurant would deliver to our house, so we had Chinese a lot.
중국 음식을
Or how after Louis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
공장에 취직했구나. 연어 공장에. 그래.
Nothing in the house
저도 한 번
looked
먹으면
abnormal.
좋지.
There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth. A lot of things got left behind in the whirlwind of that last night. My mom wasn't much of an optimist, but she never stopped believing that my brother Milton was alive.
설마. 아, 실종됐구나. 어쩌다 실종됐을까? 책이 일단 많네요.
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
에디가 들여다보는 걸 뚫었다? 곤충 같은 것도 막 모으고. 카르빈, 그레고리. 각자 방이 있는데 뭘까요?
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara.
봐봐라. 뭔지 알고 싶은 것을 봐봐라. 봐봐라가 뭐야? 손이 연결돼 있는데 손 따라가 보자.
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
열쇠를 찾아야겠네요.
Molly always seemed like a girl I could imagine being friends with, if she hadn't died in 1947.
그렇나봐. 그러네. 1937년부터 1947년까지 10년밖에 안 살았네. 거의 몇 살 때 죽었어?
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up. Louis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him.
아, 이건가?
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
엄마가 두려워했던 이유를 알아볼 시간이 이제 찾아왔다.
Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan, but I had no idea what was behind that door. To just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead.
몰리.
I grew up looking at Molly's room. Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own even tinier gerbil cage.
너무 빨리 그 해버려서 스킵돼 버렸는데.
Being inside for the first time, I felt like I'd stepped behind a painting.
맞아. 약간 이런 거 너무 좋아. 바닥까지 이어지니까 뭔가 그림 안으로 들어가는 것 같아. Hours? 이제 뭐 하면 되지? 아직 가야 되나? 에디스 뱅.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat.
이제
The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
얘 햄스터용 그거를 먹었어? 당근을? 밥 좀 주지.
I thought about eating Christopher, but I held back.
안 돼. 그러면 왜 먹니 그거를
Mom, can I come out now?
Sweetheart, it's late. Go to sleep.
엄마 나 잠이 안 와요. 나가면 안 돼요? 저 잠이 안 오는데.
My Halloween candy was all gone.
다 먹었나 봐. 참 사탕도 없어. 뭘 먹으라는 거야?
I kept eating and eating.
안 돼, 그거는 치약이야. 안 된다고. 안 돼.
I ate a lot of things that night.
이건 뭐지? 이거 먹어도 되는 건가? 이거 과일 체리? 이건 좀 괜찮을지 모르겠는데 치약은 좀 아니다.
Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her.
못 나가게 막아놨어 또.
And suddenly, I was a cat.
뗄 수 있다.
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared.
나랑 놀자, 프리야.
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
엄마 아빠는 나를 보지도 않았다. 엄마 아빠다. 여기서는 이제 어디? 여기 있다.
I jumped and I almost got her.
아 진짜 고양이들 일어날 시점이겠다. 좋은데. 네.
I could tell she was getting really tired. Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird.
맞아, 난 고양이야. 나도 먹고는 살아야지.
I gobbled her up.
아,
Suddenly,
성공했어?
I was an
그래보고?
owl. First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
이미 뭘 사냥한 후에인가 봐요.
Rabbits.
토끼. 아, 이거 좀 어려울지도. 잡았다.
I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger. A mama rabbit.
rabbit. 가자. 잡았다.
She was
개꿀이구나.
almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't
Ah,
stop
미안하다.
eating.
미안해.
And suddenly, I was a shark.
본능이었어. 아, 이번에 상어야? 상어 근데 왜 여기 있어? 이건 좀.
I rolled off the cliff and into the ocean. Now, I was hungrier than ever. I wanted fat, juicy seals. I tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good.
맛있었어? 맛있었으면 됐어. 미안해. 한 번 더 먹을게.
Grabbed on tight. When I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
이게 뭐야? 뱀이야?
Now I was a
괜찮아?
monster, and I smelled people everywhere.
정말 살아남는 건 아니겠지.
I was big, but I moved real quiet.
아, 먹었어? 먹었나봐.
I wanted to stop, but also I didn't.
멈추지 않아. 쉬고 싶지 않아. 사람 냄새가 나는구나. 맛있는 고기 냄새. 아저씨 노래는 무슨 가사 하세요?
After the last passenger, I was still hungry. And across the water, I smelled something new. Something I had to have, so I swam towards it.
헤엄쳐 왔다.
I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
오케이, 여기 안에 뭐가 있을까요? 변기? 더러워.
I got closer and closer.
가까이 다가갔어. 돌아왔어. 설마 자기 자신을 먹는 건 아니지? 제발 그런 결말만큼은.
All of my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
이런 어릴 때 이런 생각을.
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have.
몰리는 여기가
I bought this since
몰리.
Edie had spent a lot of time here. Before my
그러니까.
mom sealed the doors.
얼마나 밖에 나가고 싶어 했을까.
I can't describe it, but I felt like some part of Molly was still here.
몰리 일부? 뭐가 남아있어? 근데 어릴 때 뭐 고양이가 되고 상어가 되고 이런 게 결국은 이제
This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly.
그래도 몰리를 사랑했나 봐. 그렇지, 엄마니까. 아무튼
I
어릴 때
spent a lot
그런
of time in Great Grandma Edie's room.
동굴이 되는 상상을 했다는
The room
건
was like a museum.
창의력이 있어서.
For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan. On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind.
집을 통째로 옮겼어? 그게
But
가능해?
40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island. Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house. Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways.
약 박스가 있는 걸 보면 투병을 했었나 봐요. 병 때문에.
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
스벤은 또 미끄럼틀 때문에.
One summer, they evacuated the island, but Edie refused to go. For a few weeks, she was a celebrity. I hadn't thought of myself as Edith Jr. for a long, long time. Edie gave a big interview about a mole man living under the Finch house. My mom was furious.
두더지 인간이 거창한 인터뷰를 했어.
Even in her 90s, sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
동안이셨나봐. 바닥이가 뭐야?
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom.
그니까
It was a pretty big trace.
진짜 큰데? 일기장
There's a secret
열어볼까?
in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look.
잠깐만.
It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
이게 마우스로 움직이다 보니까 헷갈려. 와, 집에 이런 것도 있어? 별의별 게 다 있네.
Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down.
그렇구나. 이건가 봐. 이건가? 그렇네.
From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me.
그니까. 왜 얘기 안 해줬어? 집에 카메라가 많네요.
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin. And that he never talked about him. I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
할아버지도.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it.
와, 그니다.
My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom. And he did. At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again. And he wasn't. I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
조종사가 꿈이었나?
Calvin! Dinner's ready!
Coming!
가자. 타볼까?
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it.
설마 날아가는 거 아니지 여기서? 에이.
I told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that,
그래.
Alvin, I'm not gonna tell you again.
maybe if
엄마.
Clement hadn't picked up, then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind.
나 결심했어. 낼 거야.
That's what I want to remember about my brother.
이거 이게 가능해? 오, 미친다. 너 최근한 거로.
The day he made up his mind to fly, and he did.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
아, 이 헬멧이 결국은 그건가 보네. 우주 비행사. 아니면
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room.
집이 되게 신기하네.
The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
여기도 갈 수 있는데. 여기부터 갈까? 오우씨, 깜짝이야. 뭐야?
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star. Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it Ism. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up, a has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed.
거래가 보여주는 거야.
Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better.
나이 들어서
I think you just need the right
어쩔 수 없네.
motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick,
그래도
was about to
괜찮은데.
demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box. And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent.
볼 것도 움직여.
She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
너 자식 안 나와? 안 나와? 어딨어?
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl
No.
Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
안 나오냐고. 죽고 싶어? 좋은 말 때 나와라.
Old Finch rattled and grew still.
Oh dear!
Oh shit. 괜찮아? Rick.
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your scream.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the late picture show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
아 참 귀찮게. 내가 거기까지 가야겠어? 울터. 괜찮니?
Walter, are you there? Walter had vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
뒤야 뒤.
Barbara turned, saw the hookman, and was speechless. He was quite smashing.
힘내 주인공.
He couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's gotta be another way out of here.
그래. 여기.
That night, she played her part beautifully.
진짜 몰리의 방으로 들어왔어.
Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned. It wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be
No.
over yet.
여기 가야겠지?
The hookman had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was...
여기는 누구세요? 누구야? 자꾸 우리 집에 왜 오는 거야?
She heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
이런.
The monsters had come to surprise her.
아, 다 연기였어?
It was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen.
아, 그럼 그 갈고리 사나이
Going to be
진짜 아팠겠다.
And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter, hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara,
이따가 또
the
가봐야겠네.
music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call
아, 진짜였어? 그럼 그게?
eerie tale.
다 연기자 아니었어? 뭐야? 그러면
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
이 사람은 영화 배우 약간 이런 쪽이고.
I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
그러네. 나도 이제 알 것 같아. 괜히 계속 이런 게 떠오르니까.
Edie's father, Odin, built the original house. Barbara was a child star for 2 years, until America grew out of it. It's funny. All those times I played with the music box and never found the basement key. The last time I was in Edith Sr.'s room, I was 10 and she was painting my portrait.
나 들여다볼 수 있네.
As a kid, I just assumed every house had peepholes and sealed rooms you weren't allowed inside of.
켈빈.
My Grandpa Sam spent 7 years sharing a room with his dead brother, Calvin.
이거 아까 봤고. 여기 뭐가 있지?
Edie told me once that every Finch who ever lived is buried somewhere in the library.
이거 그거다. 아까 그 만화에서 나왔던 그곳이죠.
Mom said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot.
화상풍 주사 아프지?
I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages.
꾸러미를 들고 지하실로 내려간 걸 본 적 있다.
I thought maybe she was hiding presents. It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that.
진짜 많은 것을 숨겼네. 거기 비밀물이 많은 거야. 이 집은.
I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a pattern in all these stories,
여기서 표생수라고 되겠다. 지구
I
재앙
think
같은
it's
거
that none of us has gotten very far.
전쟁 나면은.
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week. But after a few days, I settled into a routine. That's what kept me sane. Having a schedule, living for today. I always expected to be dead tomorrow. If you wait long enough, you get used to anything. Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal. Almost friendly. And then one day, everything just stopped. Whatever that thing was, it was gone. Maybe it got tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid.
뭔가 주인공 피부가 좀 달라진 것 같다.
It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting. I have to leave while I still can.
무엇을 위해 떠나는 거지? 왜 떠나는 걸까? 이런 좋은 데를
I know it's
놔두고
out there somewhere.
괴물이라고 하기에는
Whatever killed Barbara and Molly
뭘
and Calvin. Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me.
나도 반복되는 삶은 싫어.
Whatever's out there, I want you to know I'm ready for it. I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food. I don't mind if I only have a year left, or a month, or a single week. I'd be happy with one new day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
자살을 했나 봐. 자살을 하다니.
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here.
그러니까
I'm
말해줬으면
sure my mom was trying to
좋았잖아요.
protect me.
나를 감싸려고. 근데 그래도 가족인데 알려주는 게 낫지 않나?
Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter. But if she never
엄마가
told me
주인공을
about
너무
the
사랑했나
couple
봐.
under the house,
그래,
I can
자식이니까
only
그냥
imagine what else she
상황하겠지.
was hiding. I don't want to make the same mistakes she made. Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe two,
2명?
I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself and found out what happened to everyone else. But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem. Maybe we believed so much in a family curse, we made it real.
길이 있었네요.
I don't know if I should even be writing this. Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family. And the history you're a part of. Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now. I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth. And when you look at the house, had that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible.
근데 집이 멋있네. 평범하지 않지만.
I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house?
그러게.
It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one. 3 of the gerbils were mine, and 2 had been my fault. Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
각 주인공마다 이런 게 모양이.
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away. She could see it poking out of the water at low tide. Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night.
여기가 이전 집이네.
Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better.
주인공 되게 슬프겠다. 가족들
She
다.
lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us. There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself. But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant.
주인공 임신한 거야? 그걸 내가 살짝 나온 것 같기도.
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common. They were both pretty intense.
Dawn, I promise, we'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged.
김치.
Not quite.
Shouldn't we be leaving?
Just want to get a shot of you, Dawn, then we can take off.
I'm over here, Dad.
Thank you.
What?
주민 되는 거 이제 알았어. 이런 빌어먹을.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? We'll never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Smile, Dawn. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are.
Aw. You're right, Dad. It's starting to clear up. Still freezing, though.
Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee. Hey!
That's a keeper.
Nothing quite like being outside. I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to... Dad!
Good eyes, Dawn. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Dad, I...
Just breathe. Turn off your imagination. Focus on your target. Let me get behind you.
게임을 통해서 미국의 문화를.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong.
좋은 아버지네.
Great shot, Dawn!
근데 불쌍해. 써놓고서는 하는 모습이 용나 없이.
I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay?
어린애.
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
so...
normal, Dawn. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
오!
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
그게 마지막일 줄이야.
Instead of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it.
주인공 진짜 멘탈이 센 건지 아니면 안타깝네요.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
이렇게 왜 이렇게 가래가 끼지? 와, 얘는 완전 어릴 때 얘 더 어린데? 이게 뭔사?
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it.
Hold on, sweetie.
Hello?
Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
Hold on, I don't want Gregory to hear this.
이러면 못 날잖아요.
I wish.
그래, 그레고리는 아직도 이 세상 속에서 살고 있겠지.
Love, Sam.
안타까운 그레고리. 그곳에서 행복하길 바래. 아까 엉클 에버리. 최고의 인간으로서.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet.
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard. Before the day, my mother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard.
위험해요, 위험해요.
My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom, were the words that
I now pronounce you husband and wife.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined and as a sign held up his middle finger.
안 돼, 그래도. 그러면 안 돼. 그런 손가락은 그러면 안 된다고.
And geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. Rain came down in buckets that no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. All my father said to this was, "Make the music louder."
그래. 바람이 얼마나 세면 저렇게 날아가니?
I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea and foam. But I didn't. Until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
그래도 좀 안타깝다. 다 오래 못 살고 갔어. 몇 명은.
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
엄마가 더 힘들었겠다.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
오른쪽에 있는 사람이.
My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Louis was born a year later. When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal. But it didn't last.
한동안 좋았대. 같이만 오래 가자.
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle. After Milton disappeared, the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings. Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
이 사람도
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
이 사람은 더 일찍 갔어. 아까 6살 때 갔다고 했던 사람도 있었는데.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors. Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out. Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
그랬구나.
Everyone always told me to stay out of Louis's room. Except Louis. Louis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Louis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Louis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to
영씨 물고기 줘요. 물고기.
wander.
아, 내가 움직이는 거구나.
I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved.
동시 움직이니까 힘들어.
Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then, daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss, but he said Louis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Louis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. on the edge of a city he named Louis-topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination, so he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality.
공장에서 얼마나 지루하면 이런 상상을 했겠어. 나 같아도
Minneapolis,
그랬을 것 같아.
until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Louis kept sailing on. In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a
여기서 선택지. 아, 지금 어디 가지? 맛있냐? 여기 가볼까 한번?
beautiful prince. The prince was on his own quest for
사악한 뱀이지.
sinister serpents. He followed the sound of his silver harp.
실수 엄마 걱정된다. 엄마가 사정사정 하는데
His
아들은
chase
일하고
led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Louis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace.
생각이네요. 안타깝죠.
My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
그래. 고생이 많구만.
Began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker.
누가 그렇게 생각하고 싶겠어. 나도 마찬가지. 보기만 해도 진짜 숨 막힌다.
Began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
혹시 뭐 옮기고 있는 거야?
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions.
좋은데.
Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting him.
근데 이미 이런 여기까지 왔다는 건 이미 갔다는 거 아니야? 여기서부터는 죽었겠네.
His prince waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
이건 좀 충격인데.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
그러니까 멋진 사람이었을 텐데.
Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
게임이 아직 이해 못한 게 좀 많아서.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left.
이거에서 많이 이러는데
My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
떠나고 싶겠지.
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner.
자식들 다 죽었는데 그 흔적들을 어떻게?
But it had to end one way or another.
잊고는 살아야 되는데
tell you about that last
그 형수 때문에 못 잊고 말이야. 나 같아도 다른 집 가지. 잊어버리고 싶었을 테니까 그런 안 좋은 것들을.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. until supper when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance, or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way.
진짜 보인다.
I got turned around.
대충 뭐
For
흙값이
a
있겠지.
while, I wondered. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed.
존재했다는 사실을 잊고 있었던 것들.
But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine!
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go!
엄마,
I kicked and screamed, but
제발.
Mom dragged me to the car.
엄마 다시
I
나한테
never
왜
saw
그러는
good
거야?
Grandma Edie again.
할머니.
The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive.
가슴이 아프다.
Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
슬퍼 진짜. 에디스 비치라는 게임이었고요. 정말 좋은 게임이었습니다. 다음에 또 이런 비슷한 게임이 나오면 그때는 분명 바로 구매해서 할 것 같고요. 여기서 마치도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다. 좋아요.